Separating Me Too from SJW Hollywood. What is it? Where did it come from, and where is it going? So Me Too is anybody, any female speaking up against being harassed or abused into having sex by an authority figure, I suppose. That'll be my definition of it. Which exploded with Harvey Weinstein, and now a lot of people have gotten in trouble for what they've done in the past, including Kevin Spacey. It's not necessarily women who have been victimized, it can be anyone, but it's primarily women. Kevin Spacey's been destroyed. What's his name? Bill Cosby. Most of them are have been rightfully destroyed. Morgan Freeman got in trouble. Now he looks like a little prick. Bryan Singer, the director of X-Men, he'll never get to make another X-Men movie. So first, the good of it. I think it is mainly a great thing. I don't understand. I don't agree with harassing women or forcing them into sex. And it's terrible. And people should get fired for that kind of shit. Or charged, depending on the severity. I don't think it's right to insult people. I don't think you should call a woman a cunt or anything like that. I mean, it's all fairly obvious, I think. And I'm glad that they're not putting up with it. That the moguls aren't getting away with it anymore. I think an interesting thing is that Bill Cosby is just the one that got caught. But how many... Like, if he had died 2 years ago, none of this would have been known. Frank Sinatra. There's so many people, such as Frank Sinatra. Imagine all the stuff he might have done. So how many people got away with it? Brett Ratner, you can tell that you could always tell he was a scumbag. I despised him, mainly for X-Men 3, but you could tell he was a sleaze. Michael Bay, I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Bay was a real sleaze. So I think it's a great movement, and generally men should just shut up and let them have their moment. But I generally put things down on this channel, so I'll just put it down for the fun of it. Not so much put it down, but focus on some of the negatives. I have a friend who's German, and he's an extremely nice guy. And he once said, I asked him, what's it like being German, having to deal with, the Holocaust and all of that stuff. And he goes, it sucks. And he says, you can never say, get over it, or, I don't want to talk about it, or you always have to remain silent. And he didn't do it, right? He's 41. He had nothing to do with the thing. But he can't say anything. And that's just kind of like the way it's going to be. That's the way it should be, I suppose, with things like the Me Too movement. Nevertheless, I'm going to trash it a little bit. And then I'm going to get on to the social justice warrior thing, and how I think it's a shame that I think the social justice warrior bullshit is exploiting a good movement like Me Too for their own selfish agenda. Henry Cavill, the actor who played Superman in Man of Steel, was asked once, what do you think of the Me Too movement? And he said something like, well, I just don't even bother hitting on women anymore, basically, because courting them. I'm old-fashioned. I like to chase women. But now I'm afraid of being called a rapist. So I just talk to previous girlfriends. I just stick with them. And I thought that makes a lot of sense. And then he got in all this trouble for it, of course, because you can't say anything even remotely negative about the Me Too movement. And he had to apologize. And then I brought up that whole subject to a social justice warrior in real life. And he basically got all upset at the very idea. The thing is, he's a man. He got upset about me defending Henry Cavill for that. And I'm puzzled about why. Why is it that certain social justice warriors would exploit the Me Too movement for their own benefit? And by the way, social justice warriors are just people that I call them moral authorities. That's my term for them. People who just think they know everything about what's right and wrong. That's just a blanket thing. But lately it manifests as women being equal or better than men, and people who aren't white being better than white people. I suppose it's just putting down anybody who has higher social status. So why would a white man be a social justice warrior? Why would a white man be so outraged and calling racism where it's not even there, or accusing somebody of being a misogynist where it's not even there? A straight white man. Where would that come from? What is his real agenda? Now, I think one possibility, very real, this may be always present, or it may be the only thing present at times, is that we're dealing with a nerd bully. Somebody who was never popular in high school. Probably picked on by white males. And, like Henry Cavill. Very good-looking man. Probably always got the girl in high school. Maybe this person who was offended, and maybe they're secretly happy to see Henry Cavill get in trouble and that now he can't hit on girls anymore. Because, it's like that white guy that got all the girls in high school, that when you got none, now he can't get them. Now he's paying. Maybe there's a certain joy in that. I think it's a shame to use a good movement like metoo, or really any good movement. It's like using a charity to pocket the money, all in the name of sick kids. So I'm going to stop talking about the Me Too movement, and I'm going to talk about the people who are ruining the Me Too movement. And that would be people like Brie Larson. I mean, she almost makes me want to turn into the person that she's telling me I am. A white man who's a total piece of shit. Like, if I saw her on the street, I'd call her a dumb bitch. And I don't hesitate to call her a stupid bitch in my YouTube videos. Because I can't resist. It's just so much fun. Like I think in Captain Marvel, she should have got a boob job. She should have had bigger tits. And she should have had high heels on. And she should have giggled a lot more. Now, I have a particularly grim view of human beings. I think that they just take, and they destroy. Kind of like what Agent Smith said in The Matrix. They're like a virus. All they know how to do is take from other people. Greed. And, and I agree that white men have been taking from everyone else throughout all of history. And it's bad. And it's definitely women's turn and black people's turn to take back. And that's fine too. And they're not just going to make it equal. They're going to want power, because that's human nature. They want to take over everything. And that I'm okay with that. However, being a white male, I'm certainly not going to take it lying down. I'm going to certainly fight back. How could you expect me not to? It's like, okay, so the Europeans did a genocide on the natives. Attempted almost a complete genocide. Killed almost their entire race. And what do we do now if we're sorry? I'll tell you what we do right now if we're sorry. We get the fuck out of North America and we go back to Europe. Sorry isn't good enough. Sorry isn't good enough. And like, hypothetically, if you found out your father was enslaving hundreds of people for their whole lives, and then you had the opportunity to free them, but you knew that if you freed them, they would kill you and rape your wife, and what do? You keep them locked up, and that's unfortunate. It's just it's the difference between reality and idealism, right? Like somebody once said, "Oh, I'm against the death penalty. What about you?" And I said, "Well, I'm against it, but ideally, nobody should be killed for anything, right? Ideally, there wouldn't even be a punishment." But realistically, there's just too much shit going on, and you have to do it. Prince. God damn it. Machiavelli's The Prince was about what has worked in history, what is realistic, rather than what is idealistic. He never said it's right. He just said this is what works. Now, as for Hollywood pushing agendas, it's nothing new. It's always happened. In movies in the 70s and 80s, women were treated like dumb idiots, and men didn't have a problem with that. And that was pushing an agenda, right? That women are weak. So there's always going to be the agendas. Luckily, though, I don't really care too much about Hollywood movies, and I'm happy to see them go. But the thing is, even if you've got an agenda in a movie, you still have to have a good story. And it's like they've discarded the story completely and just focused entirely on an agenda. And you don't really have a movie when you're just doing... That's more of a lecture than a movie. And nobody, even social justice warriors, don't want to watch a movie, an agenda masquerading as a movie. And see how much they like it. Wait and see. I can't wait to see how well Phase 4 of Marvel goes with female Thor, who's 5'3", and transgendered Valkyrie. And by the way, transgender are like 0.1% of the population, I think. So that's a big box office there. And who else? I don't know. Black Captain America. That's fine. Give them their time. Have Black Batman. Do all of that, because I have enough stuff. I've watched enough great movies to last a lifetime, and we can always look back to the original Batman movies where he was a white guy. We can always look back to the movies where Thor was a guy, and the women can have their female Thor, and the black people can have their black Batman. And I go a step further, because I really do think this is condescending to women and black people. Anybody with half a brain who's black or female would find this ridiculous. It's really defeatist. Forcing, okay, black Santa Claus, female Jesus. I'm not religious. But, where do you draw the line? And, I've taken it even further. Like, well, how about making Charles Dickens black? Why don't we rewrite, while we're rewriting, fiction history, let's rewrite real history. Abraham Lincoln was a woman. Why not? Might as well. He could have been a woman. We're not sure. And it just reminds me of, like, the Special Olympics. You're not retarded. You're special. Women's tennis. Well, why is there women's tennis? We should have it just be both sexes. That's sexist, isn't it? According to them, it is. And maybe when the man plays the woman at tennis, he should lose. Otherwise, he was cheating to win, or something like that. So then you'll have games where the guy lets the woman win. And how is that not insulting to women? How is it not insulting to women that Captain Marvel automatically has unlimited powers? It's like cheating. How is it not insulting to black people that Black Panther, the movie, sucks? Yet it's got all these rave reviews. And the other response I always have is like, okay, well, how about let's have more white people in the NBA, right? Why are there so many tall people? There should be midgets in the NBA. And there's a lot more demographics, right? There's midgets. So like, let's have a black female lesbian midget retarded blind Batman. It works because bats are blind, right? Why not though? Right? Because those are real people. And I'm never one to say that I'm not racist, because I think everybody's got some racism somewhere, and I don't like to be a hypocrite. But I don't want a black Batman. And I don't want a female Batman. I just don't. And maybe it's because I grew up with Batman, seeing him a certain way. But you know what? I wouldn't want a white Black Panther. A white Panther. And I wouldn't want a white Blade. And I wouldn't want a male Wonder Woman. And I wouldn't want a male Black Widow. Black Widow is supposed to be sexy. And I guess that's misogynist. Everything's misogynist. There's a line in the movie Captain Marvel that I'll never forget. And I guess I watched it not so much to mock it, but to see how far they're going to go with this agenda shit. And there's a scene where she goes, somebody calls her a young lady. She goes, "You call me a young lady again and I'll punch you." And I'm like, oh, so you can't say young lady anymore. That's an insult. Wow. I thought you're saying something nice. You're a young lady. Okay, so I'll just call you a dumb bitch then. But somebody said to me, well, you can see how being called a young lady in a condescending way could be insulting. And I'm like, yeah, but you attack the condescending way they're talking. You don't attack the words they're using. Like, talk about giving somebody all the power. When you give somebody power with their words, like, fuck, you're dead. Like, if I call you a stupid girl, you don't say, don't call me a girl. You say, don't call me stupid. It was about 4 years ago that I was in a bar with a female white friend, and she was talking to a female black girl, and this girl really is not a good example for black women because she's just a terrible person. Everybody can't believe how awful she is. But anyways, they're talking about race a bit, racism, and she actually said this, and this shows what kind of a troublemaker she is. She said she thinks it's racist when you're pointing to a black person and you say, that person over there. She says that because you're not saying, you should say that black person, and the fact that you're not saying that black person, you're just saying that person, implies that there's something wrong with, you think there's something wrong with being black. That was what she said, which is really, like, that's reaching so hard. And they got in a big argument, and my white female friend started crying. And she said to me at one point, how long are they going to get away with this? And I go, 10 years. 10 years. We'll see if I'm right. That would mean in about 6 years, that shit ain't going to fly anymore. No, but I've seen friendships get ruined in real life over this bullshit. And I've seen Star Wars get destroyed over this agenda bullshit. And I think I'm about to see Marvel get destroyed over this agenda bullshit, this moral authority bullshit. I mean, Brie Larson's destroyed her career over this moral authority bullshit, which leads me to Hollywood actors and other such non-gender educated people shooting their mouths off. All of a sudden, they know everything about gender or race. And the funny thing is, people go to university, college their whole lives, studying, getting PhDs in gender studies. And even they don't have the answers. But Brie Larson knows. I'm no expert, and I don't have the answers. How different are women than men? In particular, I don't think blacks and whites are different at all. Women are different than men, though. And I'll cite 2 studies that I'm sure Brie Larson's never heard of, because I don't think she studies studies, even though she knows everything about everything. They did a study where they gave male hormones to female mice and female hormones to male mice. And the male mice ended up acting more female, more timid, more quiet, more motherly, more loving. And the male mice became more violent and aggressive. Sorry, the female. It became more violent and aggressive and whatnot. So there's an argument that males are naturally more aggressive and dominant than females, and that's why they seek positions of power more than females. Then another study, they put a bunch of adults in a room with little babies, and half the babies were dressed in baby blue and the other half were dressed in pink. The gender was not, it didn't matter, right? Now the adults were asked to interact with the babies. When the babies in pink broke out crying, the adults would say, "Aw, there, you poor thing, aw." And when the males started crying, the adults would tend to say, "Oh, come on, don't be a wimp." So there's evidence right there that we subconsciously, even when we don't know it, encourage girls to cry and be cute, and we encourage boys to be tough. So you see, there's arguments from the nurture and nature perspective, and I think the same of gay. Like, some people are born gay, some people become gay. I don't think you can be sure. And I don't think anybody's sure. Well, anybody except for Brie Larson. Brie Larson knows everything about women and men, of course. Well, she knows enough. She knows enough to know that white men suck. But you know what else also sucks? Is that Brie Larson's number one demographic is middle-aged white men, right? That's who she's trying to sell tickets to. It's not the girls who are, going to fashion shows and, reading Elle magazine. I have a friend who has a son who has bleached blonde hair, like Yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, he's going to drive the girls crazy in school. And he'll probably be the only kid with blonde hair in the class for his whole life. And my point being that, first of all, blonde is attractive. Secondly, the more you try to eliminate them, for lack of a better word, the more rare they're going to be. You make every single comic book movie, you fill it with women, it's going to be so refreshing. Everybody's just going to go they're going to go run for their lives towards the only male white Batman movie. And these little entries that I make, I look forward to checking them out in 5 years and seeing how right I was, because I'm positive I'm right about this. Marvel Phase 4 is going to crash and burn. I think everybody knows that. It's kind of obvious. What they did with Star Wars was obvious. That's the scary part. It should have been obvious to the people who created it. And as I said before, Walt Disney does not have morals. It's a corporation. They would just as easily be making racist movies if racism was in. They're just pandering, right? They're chasing money. I mean, and that's obvious too. All of this is supposed to be obvious. It should also be obvious that people don't like boring movies. They like good movies. And it doesn't matter if you've got Black Panther, a black character and a female character and a lesbian character. If it's a bad story, you're screwed. And I think they forgot that with Captain Marvel. And with Last Jedi. You know, I was watching Avengers Endgame the other day, and they're all in a circle, and they're getting ready to go time traveling, and I'm like, there's like 11 of them or something, and Black Widow is the only female. Now, is that because we hate women? Is that why there's only one woman in the group? Could it relate to the fact that men are just naturally bigger and stronger, and that men have been doing all the fighting for the last 2,000 years, and it's just unrealistic that a female would be able to contend? I mean, why aren't females and males playing tennis together, right? Why do you have female tennis? I'd like to point out, though, that there's a lot of YouTube people who I think are going too far in a sense of, like, when J.J. Abrams said that, well, if, I'm sure there's people who wouldn't like a Star Wars movie just because there's they hate females or something. They took a little soundbite and they blew it up into something much bigger than it was. Anybody would have said that. Nobody paid attention to the question he was asked. Like, if they asked, do you think some people that don't like Rey is because they don't like females? And I would probably say, yeah, sure. I'm sure some people don't like it because she's a female. And then they just took that and then they rode with it. That's going too far. And I don't think you really need to go too far, because they're pretty much making asses out of themselves anyways with the Star Wars movies and now with Phase 4. No, and and by the way, I'm just fascinated by this whole subject, and I'm willing to be wrong, so please let me know. There was a scene in Captain Marvel where she says to the little girl, she goes, "You're a tough kid." And I was like, wait a minute. You can't say you're a tough girl? So it's wrong to be a girl. You should just be a kid. So you're already, in a way, you're putting down girls. And then tough? Isn't tough what you're trying to get away from if you're a feminist and you hate men? Shouldn't you be pushing forward the nurturing side? Or are you trying to say women are just as tough as... They're tough, but tough is a masculine trait. Like, so you're going to grow a mustache and not shave your legs? Is that what you want? Because do it then. Let's see your hairy legs then. Pull your pants up and show your hairy legs and grow a mustache. Cut your hair really short, like, right? Because long hair, that's a bad agenda, right? Girls should have long hair, right? How far do you want to go with this? Why is your hair long? I mean, realistically, people can just pull your hair, right? Like real fighters, they shave their heads because you don't want your hair pulled when you're doing mixed martial arts and shit. There's no practical reason for her to have long hair, except that it looks pretty. And I can't think of any woman on the planet who doesn't like being called beautiful or pretty. They absolutely love it. When I date a girl, I'll tell her half the reason I'm into her is because she's so good looking. And they do not have a problem with that. They love it if you think they're gorgeous. And that includes gorgeous women. Gorgeous women also love being called gorgeous. They just love it. Who doesn't? I'd love it if somebody called me gorgeous. And I can't tell you how many girls I've known who say, oh, this new guy that I'm seeing, he thinks I'm really smart. And then one of them I finally said, I go, listen, even if you weren't smart, you're gorgeous. Of course he's going to say you're smart. Even if you were the stupidest person in the world, he would tell you you're smart and he can really relate to you. And maybe it's not even conscious. Maybe just because you're so beautiful, he thinks he can relate to you. He wants to relate to you. He certainly wouldn't tell you that he's only into you for your looks. And she's like, well, is that why you were into me? And I'm like, well, yeah, partly. And that's what this like Captain Marvel shit is. It's like everybody's going to tell her she's smart and she's going to play a character that's really smart and powerful. And like, does she ever question, like, are they just making me powerful because I'm a good-looking actor? Or am I just smart because I'm supposed to be? Because I'm supposed to, like, make women look smart? Is my character actually smart, or are people just saying that? Maybe she's actually an idiot. Maybe... That would be funny in Captain Marvel Part 2. If she starts thinking, are people just letting me win because I'm a female? Is that what this is all about? So I never actually earned... Do I even have superpowers? Did Thanos let me go through his ship because I was a female? And I actually was never that... Yeah, that would be so cool. And they like... Thanos actually made the hole in the ship and pretended that Captain Marvel did. She actually has no power. God, it's just so sad, isn't it? Like, what a terrible time to be a woman. It reminds me of when I was in grade school and some guy, asshole... I'm friends with him now. We're on good terms. But he was like a popular kid. And I really wanted to play football with them. And he's like, no. And I'm like, come on, let me play. And finally, he told me I could play. But then they just like tossed the ball around me. But they made me think I was playing. That's what this is like. Okay, so we have to put Captain Marvel in this movie, whether we like it or not. So what are we going to do? I don't know, we'll just make her do something important at the beginning that doesn't affect the plot, then get rid of her, bring her back at the end, make her do a little glorious thing, and then we get back to the real story. You know, but like just make her think that she's important. And I guess I'll end this by coming full circle and talking about metoo again. But to bridge the gap, to bridge the subject change, I know like two girls who are two of the strongest, most intelligent, most willful. Like I've seen them almost kick the shit out of people in real life, and they are laughing their heads off at all of this. And one of them even thinks Me Too is ridiculous. And these are two of the strongest women I've ever met, and I've met a lot of people. I live in downtown, a big city. Two of the strongest women I've ever met and respect. One of them owns a house on her own. She's not married. One of them's like saved up enormous amounts of money and paints like fine art 12 hours a day. Seriously. She's like a robot. She's like a maniac. She's like a Terminator. The other one, she's like, she goes, me too. She's like, give me a fucking break. You know, these actresses make millions of dollars. She's like, oh God, I'll have sex with an ugly pig for $10 million. But you know, that brings up another thought, which is, you know, for every Harvey Weinstein there is, how many women actors are there out there who manipulated their way by seducing the director or the producer and maybe ruined his marriage with his wife because they just they realized that if they could do their wiles, if they could you know, seduce him enough, they could get the role. I bet that happens all the time. You know, 20 years ago, I met a industry insider in Hollywood, and he basically said, you have no idea what actresses have done to get their roles. These actresses who look squeaky clean, a lot of them, you wouldn't believe what they've done to get where they are at. And I think of people like Julia Roberts and Nicole Kidman. What could they have done to get that role? And is Julia Roberts going to come out, I mean, if it was the case, and say, the only reason I got Pretty Woman is because I gave a blowjob to the producer? Would she come out now and say that? No, because she wants to be looked at like she made it all on her own. Yeah, on another thing, I know a girl who, she called the cops on her husband because she was mad that he was banging some other chick after she cheated on him. And she said he was hitting her. And it was their dog that made the bruises. And after I helped him move out, very unceremoniously with the cops there and everything, I called her and I say, "Why did you say he hit her? He hit you?" And she goes, I don't know, I'm losing my mind. She made it up out of spite. She completely made it up. I've seen girls make up this shit. I'm not saying they all do. Of course I'm not saying they all do. But some of them do. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. I mean, being a young, attractive girl is an incredible amount of power to have. And being young, you're not going to be very wise about your use of that power. I would hate to have that much power at a young age. I was a moron when I was 20. But, I mean, if I was a female and I was gorgeous, I'd be like, I'm going for the richest guy. That's the guy I'm going to like, sure, I'll give him a blowjob if it means I get a big fucking role. Why not? Chris Rock said this, and I thought this was really smart. He said, okay, when you're dating a girl, what is the first thing your friends ask you about her? Is she hot? Well, when a girl's dating a guy, what is the first thing her friends ask her? What does he do? So, I mean, that's just a difference that just exists, and I'm sorry if you don't like it. But girls don't say, is he hot? They say, what does he do for a living? I believe strongly that the only way you get ahead in this world, nobody gets anything for free. The only things you get for free in this world are like your health, inheritance, that's free money, or living in a good country, being born in a good country. Other than that, you get nothing. So I don't think anybody got where they're at without doing something shady. I mean, basically, you either take it up the ass at some point, or you get in line up for welfare, or you rip somebody off. You do something despicable. That is how you get power in today's world, and probably yesterday's world. Me personally, I have avoided all of this by not working within the system. I believe that if I was some big shot movie producer, I'm afraid of what I would be capable of. Sure, like if I had unlimited power like Harvey Weinstein had, maybe I would say, hey, suck my dick and get the role. I don't know what I'm capable of, is what I'm saying. If I was given power, power corrupts, and that's why I've avoided having power. I prefer equal interactions with women. But do you know, and I'm speaking to whoever's listening, do you know what you would do if you had unlimited power? Because all these, conscience, that only plays a role. I mean, how much is that of just being afraid of going to jail? What would you be capable of if you had unlimited power? And a person really has to ask themselves that. And if they don't, then they're Brie Larson, because she's just automatically perfect, right? Oh, God. The people to watch out for are the people who don't doubt themselves. Now, are you telling me that Hugh Hefner didn't get 6 hot blonde girlfriends at the age of 90? Because they wanted to, get better jobs? I mean, isn't Hugh Hefner was like the biggest Harvey Weinstein, wasn't he? I mean, he's basically running a whorehouse. He tried to dress it up like it was nice, but they were the one model, that one of his girlfriends, she wrote a fucking autobiography where she was like, it was so pathetic having sex with him. It was like when he had the 6 girlfriends, we would have to take turns squatting on his elderly dick. And it was so awful. Well, they played. It was a deal that they made. It's a deal. It's like suck my dick and you get the role. Should that be allowed? No, it shouldn't. But that's how the world works. I'm sorry that it works that way. I wish it. I really am sorry that it works that way because I don't want it to work that way. But it is how it works. I would not be surprised in the slightest if it comes out in the next whatever decade that Brie Larson sucked a dick to get a role. Would not. I'm positive of it. In fact, and there's no shame in that. Prostitution is the oldest job in the world. You don't get anything for free. She's not especially good looking. She's pretty good looking, but she wants the world to believe that she got where she is because of her acting chops. Not necessarily. And, suck a dick. I mean, there's a million ways to suck a dick, and they don't have to be literal. It could be just being badgered by someone and putting up with it. You don't get very far if you tell off your boss at work. You have to suck it up. He's badgering you. He's insulting you. I mean, that's pretty fucking awful. I've had jobs where I've been abused by my employers. I think it's probably fairly common. And if you want to move up, generally, you have to take it. So to end this off on a positive note, I'm sure there are actresses who are victims. Lots of them. Ashley Judd, all of them. Most of them. Not all of them. Most of them. And the metoo movement deserves its time. And it should not be allowed, that kind of behavior. And you realize you're speaking... I sound like such a rapist, I suppose. But the thing is, I've never, ever smacked a girl's ass. I've never done anything inappropriate with a woman. Ever. I'm just saying, who am I to assume that everybody else is, fucking evil or good? Reminds me of a line from Dante's Inferno. It's actually not Inferno, it's Paradiso. Dante goes to heaven and he sees a total piece of shit there in heaven. Someone like Bill Cosby, or like imagine you go to heaven and you see Bill Cosby there. And Dante's like, what the fuck? This guy's a total piece of shit. Do you know what a piece of garbage this guy is? And the angel says to him, basically, who are you to know the will of God? Thing is, you might think this person is evil and disgusting, but you don't know the good things he may have done behind closed doors. And even if you did, who are you to know the will of God? Like, you're already sinning just by saying that you know better than God does who deserves to go to heaven. And the moral of that story is just that, like, you have not figured out the difference between right and wrong. None of us have. We know our ideas of right and wrong, but don't judge. Nothing would make me happier than to see a world where women are in charge, because that would be amazing. Okay, I'm going to give one more anecdote and then I'm going to go. A friend of mine once told me that the human race evolved from a certain type of monkey. I forget what it was called. But it just as easily could have evolved from another species of monkey that was equally smart. And they were called bonobos. And they were a matriarchal society. Very female-led. And he goes, and if they had been the ones who had evolved and become the human race, we would have a matriarchal, existence. And it was a lot. It was all fucking. It was everybody just having sex all the time and love. And he goes, and that would be pretty good. And my response to that is, you're right. Like, I would love for women to be in charge. I'm totally cool with that. But I don't want to see Captain Marvel, because that's just ridiculous. That's not the way females rule, but just by being idiots who automatically have powers. It's condescending and ridiculous and shoehorned in. And honestly, if Phase 4, if they can pull it off, females all being the major Avengers and all of that, nothing would make me happier. I really just want to see a good movie. Please do it. And it's only going to be better for me especially because I'm not an abusive fellow. But as it stands, a lot of this, unfortunately, the Me Too movement would have been great if it was just that. But now we got assholes like Brie Larson latching on and using it to further her career. And as a result, there's going to be a lot of girls in a lot of bars all over the world, well, especially in North America, who are going to be wondering, where are all the nice guys? Why is it only the creepy guys that hit on me in bars? And the answer is, the nice guys are at home because they're not going to bother anymore. Just like Henry Cavill said, I'm not even bothering anymore because I don't want to get called a rapist. So who loses? I mean, the women lose just as much as the men do. Anyways, this has been overly long, so I'm going to go now. I'm going to work on my book. It's called When I Go to Hell. I'm trying to think of making it into a graphic novel. It's a really cool idea. I can't wait. And if you like it, click. If you like this, I need subscribers. I don't need them, but I'd like to get like at least 20 views per video, just to know that somebody. It's more about getting quality viewers than quantity viewers. As long as there's a few people who enjoy my thoughts, then it's worth doing. And I already do get a few, so that's pretty good. And now you're going to hear me repeat it in my extra. Okay, bye. Thank you very much for listening. If you like gays, click like. If you like blacks, comment. If you like women, click notification bell. If you like gay women, subscribe. And if you like gay black women, Patreon, human warnings. Give me